This will be an interesting conversation as we will be discussing one critical sector among all sectors that we don't pay attention to regardless. To begin with this thought, talking about education, which is the most important investment any country can make in its future. According to the United Nations Center for Human Settlement, knowledge is the new capital, and economic development is increasingly dependent upon an educated workforce and its innovativeness and creativity. Yet, the Nigerian education system faces numerous challenges, including inadequate funding, poor infrastructure, teacher shortages, and insecurity. These issues contribute to a decline in the quality of education and increased rate of out-of-school children. Any nation seeking economic growth must prioritize education and skills training for its citizens to boost productivity, quality leadership, innovation, and unity. However, President Bola Tinubu, in his inaugural speech in 2023, among the pillars of the Renew Hope agenda, could not capture the education sector as one of the priorities, even though the administration suggests supporting the sector with funds used for fuel subsidy narrowly. Well, if you don't agree with me, you go back to watch the full speech. However, the administration, as it progresses, the federal government introduced a student loan scheme called the Nigerian Education Loans Fund, which is called Nelfund, which was formally launched in July 2024 to improve access to higher education and reduce the financial burden of indigent students. And now the question is, how can a nation be built economically without human capital and development, especially in a developing country like Nigeria, full of potential but lacking innovation, creativity, and industrial intelligence? Hello and welcome to WebTV Focus program, where we discuss issues that affect the Nigerian household. I am Gabriel Jude. Today's edition will focus on education sector in Nigeria, a panacea for national productivity. And to discuss this, I have Dr. Babatunde Faustino, a communication consultant and scholar. Thank you for coming on the program.
Thank you, Mr. Gabriel.
All right, so before we begin the conversation, I would like us to get Nigerians' perception of the education sector before we start. We'll be right back.
Okay.
How would you assess the system of education in Nigeria?
Yes, the system of education in Nigeria has improved compared to what happened in the past. Those days, we are in digital era, where we have computer. The children nowadays are taught with computers. They can access the whole world in their sitting room. But now, those days, no computer, nothing. It is from your house to your classroom. And so there is modernization, there's improvement in the level of education. The only problem we are having is with the children that we're having these days now. The system has improved, but the children refuse to improve. Only a few of them improve. Understand now? Students are no more serious like those days.
If you look critically to the previous Jamb that the students have just written, you can see the inconsistency. It shouldn't be so. It means that we have not gotten there. The education in Nigeria is still shaking. And if we are to continue like this, it means that we will not have headway.
We need the government to, yes, a lot of trainings for teachers. Free, I would say free trainings, because a lot of teachers do not have that money. We need those kind of programs, practical, like just all these free learning skills for teachers.
And I feel like we that are going to learn, I feel like we should put more effort, because they are just teaching us and we don't know what we are doing. Sometimes people are just going to school just because of certificates. I just want to go to school and have this certificate and be like, okay, I went to school, I went to university. Why some just want to go there to gain knowledge? But I feel like depending on the students too, but majority on the school. Sometimes the school don't even have the faculties or the equipment to even teach students.
So I feel the equipment are not enough. I think they need more equipment for the learning to be easier. So I actually heard one teacher saying to a student that if you are an engineering student if you are someone that needs practical, there are some works that need practical, like civil engineering, all these construction workers, they need practical to learn more about it, not only theories. And I think they need more equipment to make the practical more easy. So seeing the labs, it was not really equipped like it should be.
We need like more like promises to students, more help, more like things to help students boost that morale towards studying more. And yes, you get to do after like finish particular course.
What we have right now, we can work on it, but it is not totally bad, because I think most of the tertiary, which is where we have the final level, you realize that most schools now add digital skills and other trainings to it, AI. In fact, most of these schools now, they have tried to add entrepreneurship skills to all the courses, be it engineering or what have you. So, and most of the, from what I'm aware of, most schools have even upgraded their curriculum now to deal with current issues that we have. So I think for now, I think we are on the right path.
Those students that are serious, they still get job in the labor market.
Some people are favoring the labor market actually, but it's not all. But people don't, like for me, I'm a teacher. Nobody wants to be a teacher. Everybody would be like, how much are they giving us? Speed not change, blah blah blah. But actually, we should just impact on the young ones, those that are coming, that the one that are the future of Nigeria. I feel like we should impact more on them. Forget about education right now. We should just impact more on them, on all the things we've learned. Let's be sincere. Fine, we don't have enough education, or all the equipment will not be correct, but still, we should just try and bring up the future leaders that are coming.
So from our experience, everybody cannot work in a white collar office. You definitely have people that are working in blue collar. I've had tuition of someone that studied accountancy, that repairs computers at Computer Village. I've also had someone that studied law and is an actor. So the first thing is not just about the curriculum set, it's about even the individual himself discovering himself and knowing what works for him. So that, because there's no way, even if the government produces all the available jobs, it cannot accommodate the whole population. So there must be those that will be entrepreneurial, there are those that work in government, all of them come together to make the country work. So the important thing is that discover yourself. Where is your skill? You see, I've had situations of people that are good in fashion design, and I'm seeing them in hospitality. I've seen those that are good in catering, in computer science. And I do ask, why are you in the wrong field? You understand? So the best thing is that when you discover yourself, and that might be from the secondary level, when you have discovered yourself, maybe you can also encourage parents not to force the children to a particular sector that they don't actually thrive in. Someone is enjoying things in arts and you are forcing him to physics because you have said it that in your village you must produce the first doctor. You understand? So let them be able to discover themselves, and when they are working, when they go to the institutions and they tailor their studies to what they have passion for, even if they don't get a job when they come out, they can create something. It doesn't have to. They don't have to wait for someone to create employment for them. You can create employment for yourself and for other people. That's what I believe.
Doctor, so you heard what Nigerians said about the education sector, have a lot of contrary opinions. I would like you to react to this before my first question.
Okay. You observe that in all of the comments made by the different persons who had spoken, some said that the children of these days, some said that the parents should not force the children to go and study what they should not study. Some also said that the students should try and discover themselves. Or let me put it in another way, we should help them discover themselves. In all of it, you observe that there's no one of it that does not have one blame or one excuses or the other. So, and if you ask me, first, on the first person that said the children of these days, I don't agree with him. In fact, that takes me to the role that parents play in this current day when it comes to the education of their children. Some will tell you that the economy is not good, finances and all that. But in actual fact, if we want to be deliberate and we force the government to be responsible to see our deliberate stance in making our children to want to go to school, there's no way those children will not be serious towards their education. Once in a while, we have some trance among them who wants to be funny, but in the African way, we have a way of resetting those trance to make them stay focused. A good example, a child who is from a family that is put through a school system where you are watched, you go to school, you come back, where's your homework, you have a lesson teacher that checks your work, does everything. By the time you do it over time with that child, for the first 3, 4, 5 months to 1 year, that child becomes used to that. That child sees that action as a way of life, as what he or she cannot afford not to go through as far as learning is concerned. So the question is, what efforts do we parents, I don't even want to talk about society now, do we parents first put into making these children learn? And that takes us to different areas.
Right, Doctor. So I want us to talk about something critical. So it's going to be more of like going back to the olden days. So I had a lot of stories where our parents used to say, when we are we had from 4, from 2, from this, your technical schools, just like more like secondary school that we have now, and then the things that they did. And even as it stands now, there are people who have attended those kind of schools and they are still in the workforce. Sometimes we see them as contract staff. Now, the question is, how did we get here? That's in terms of learning skills, quality training, and also, in fact, to the point where the country doesn't even feel like it, that I have people who are from a sector particularly created by me to help boost the productivity of the country.
Okay, let me disabuse your mind. I don't like hearing that word in our time, from 5, from 10, from 20. I hate to hear that thing, because those things itself, they kill the morale of the young chaps that we are meant to develop. We are meant to motivate. Come to think of it, have we asked ourselves, why are certain schools, certain children from certain schools doing well, and certain children from certain schools are not doing well? I think that may be a better way to look at this. Personally, I feel that in spite of the efforts of the government, because on 1 or 2 occasions I've been privileged to witness 1 or 2 things that Lagos State government, for instance, want to do in the aspect of education. You see the teachers not buying into those things they want to do. And that affects the public school system. Because I went to a public-private school, and as at the time I was in public-private school, I was enjoying it. I was at primary school in Victoria Island. It was on point. It was good. My children now cannot go to those public schools. Why is that so? Those are the things we should be probing. They attend a nursery and primary school that the track record of that school is excellent. I don't want to call their names, so I don't do free advert for them. However, that speaks to what we should be talking about in education. For instance, at one point in one point or the other, that school, they invite their alumni, their students who have passed out from secondary school, going to other schools, other university, who has done Jamb, top 10 overall Jamb, top 5 overall Jamb. They bring them, they celebrate them. As they do those things, it motivates those children. Among those children, they also struggle to want to be the best. One day, my little boy told me, Daddy, they invited me last year, but they didn't invite me this year. I said, because you didn't do well. You have to work hard. So you can imagine the motivation. So the question is, what educational system do we have in place that will motivate those children, those chaps, to become a better person? The Form 20, the Form 10, they didn't tell us who were those motivating them to become whatever they are. So we can make our system better. It's a function of you and I, government, and those who work there. That's just it. So if we get it right there, then we are good. So I do want to share in that sentiment from 20, from 30. No. I'm out of that. I'm not interested in that.
How do we get here is the fact that there is diminish in productivity, especially when you see that graduate, you see people not doing well, and you see a lot of things happening. There is no even, confidence.
Okay, I think you are choking your hand in my throat right now. And again, I feel very sad when I hear people talk about the fact that our graduates are not what they expect them to be. Some even use languages such as they are half-baked graduates, and that accounts for the low productivity that we have. Yes, we cannot take away the fact that there's been problem from the foundation. We just started that conversation there. Some of the things that could have been done to avoid that foundation. But don't also forget the fact that in this society of us now, a lot of persons, a lot of parents, a lot of family, they compete to have their children in the university. And before now, we have the polytechnic, we have the technical school, we have but your interest in either of these schools that you want to attend is a function of what you can do, what contribution you can make to the country. But because of competition, because of the society pressure, that has changed. In spite of that change, it does not nullify the fact that we do not have graduates that can hold their own in the market. We see so many of them go abroad, they become the best. But let me also let me shock you. We have students who have complained that when they send them out for IT in some of these organizations, because they talk about town and gown, how does the town and gown work together to make these students a better persons? We've had cases where those students who go to those places to do IT, what they do is to send them to go and buy food. They give them plates to go and buy food. And these are people who are supposed to be helping us to mold the students, to train them, to make them better persons. And I'll also tell you that the students we have, even though we have the theoretical parts that the university is supposed to play, the practical parts are the same as the IT they are supposed to do. And in this modern day, they are introducing entrepreneurship in whatever those students learn. So in those entrepreneurship learning, for instance, they learn something that will make them hands-on in whatever they do. So with every sense of modesty, I would just say that we shouldn't be quick to want to condemn them, to want to write them off, because come to think of it, there's no company that will employ those chaps that will not train them to fit into whatever they want. There's none of them. So if you know you will do that, you will invest that money to train and all that, do that. Why do you have to not condemn the system? So some of them just talk because they want to talk. But part of the investment, part of the training is also the training that they also make those young graduates undergo to make them whatever they want them to become. Should be their own contribution to the nation building, not to totally condemn everything.
All right, so Doctor, I want us to talk about policy. So, which means that we're going to dive our discussion into policymakers, right? So, from the report, from the introduction to this program, we have seen that the current administration did not really capture education sector in its, Renew Hope agenda, right? So, but we also see in the long run, we have seen what the government have done, which I want to commend them on that, talking about Nelfund, right, student loan, so to say. So, do you think that this is what the education sector needs at this point?
Okay, thank you. First of all, I would like to want to avoid the temptation of delving into the blala of New Hope. I don't want to talk about that. New Hope, Old Hope, Center Hope is for them. I am more interested in how we want to improve our educational sector. And just alluded to that, you have observed that in their own little way, they try to support it with the Nelfund thing and all that. But I think if we want to look at the educational sector, it will be fair on our own part to do a situational analysis, a critical analysis of that sector. What is it about this sector that is wrong, that is not making us go to wherever we have desired in our hearts to want to go to? If we do that, we can now objectively say where they are faltered and where they are not faltered, and where we have to go to. So on a personal capacity, let me take it from the Nelfund issue that you raised. If we've been following different events in the news media, we observe that there have been different accusations on many university managements stealing the Nelfund money and not allowing the students to benefit from it. In fact, there was one podcast where Osita Chidoka accused most university management and the educational sector of not having good corporate governance, not showing what they do, not publishing their accounts, the revenue, and all that to the public. Just 4 days ago, there was a media publication showing that only 3 universities have done that. Top 100 universities, University of Lagos, have published all their records and everything.
No accountability.
When you say this, in your own honesty, do you think you will say it is the government that is doing this? We ourselves, we have the problem. So until we see, or we all ready, we all say, let us come together and make this thing a better place, a better sector, things will not good. It will not improve. If government say that I want to pay the school fees of every student in university today, you will see some university management paying that money. So I would not want to go into that debate of Nelfund or no Nelfund. At least that they've even done Nelfund, and some persons are frustrating that Nelfund for some people to feel the impact of Nelfund. It speaks volume. So we should be asking ourselves that what do we think government would do that the people will not frustrate, that the people will embrace, to make it trickle down to the people that needs it? We see different complaints in the public. Say one government will say, we have provided this in this community, we have provided this community. One person will just carry other thing and take to himself. It is part of the problem. Nelfund case is not different from that. If a university management can collect money from federal government under the guise of Nelfund, and those are supposed to benefit from it and are not benefiting from it, are they different from those politicians, different people who collect money for one purpose or the other, construct project, and that they don't implement? They're not different. They are the same thing. So they also contribute to the bad situation we have in the educational sector today. They contribute. So that's my opinion.
So, doctor, what is that thing that we need really? What is that thing that because I want you to address that.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, I should address
because
you
mentioned that there is just a little way of addressing the challenges. Yeah. So what do you think that we need at this time?
It's a whole lot. Okay, first and foremost, we operate a federal system where there's limit to what the federal government can do. Whatever the federal government says he wants to do, when it gets to a point, he has to stop and wait for the state government to continue. And don't forget that education, the exclusive part of it has its own parts, the concurrent and the residual parts, the primary education and all that. Look at this case of Nelfund, and when Osita Chidoka, for instance, when he raised the alarm that there's no accountability in tertiary institutions and all that. And the minister, to be fair to him, after some days, through the permanent secretary of that Ministry of Education, issued a circular that university should make their accounts public. As we speak, only 3 was published to have done that. Look at that. So I think that the Ministry of Education, Federal Government, the Ministry of Education, can be hard on the universities and all the federal polytechnics, federal college of education, to also toe that line. Not just that, for the unity schools, if at all they have a mechanism where they receive money and they need to make whatever they receive public, let them make it public. Let us see whatever they have. Transparency and accountability. And if they do all that at the state level, because we have state universities, what happens to that? If any state government does not buy into what the minister is doing, it's done wherever, there'll be problem. So we can only pontificate here. We can only talk. If they don't embrace it, they don't consider doing that, nothing will be done. So I'm of the opinion that all the stakeholders have to come together. If truly we love Nigeria, like we have always claimed, we want things to be good. We want everything that we do have an impact in the overall well-being of the country, then we should tow one course that will make us a better country. That's my suggestion.
I think we are going to dive into that, but then let's look at the ministry itself. So starting from the person who is taking the lead, which is the Minister of Education, Dr. Olatunji Alausa. When he resumed office, he made mention of an ambitious initiative to revamp the sector. So we have 6 key priorities, which is promoting science, technology, engineering, mathematics, and medical science, reducing the number of house or school children, enhancing technical and vocational education and training, advancing girl child education, harnessing data and digital, strengthening quality assurance and mechanism. I want you to assess this. How has it been so far?
Okay, giving me a tall order. Okay, I don't have the data to work with right now, but let me talk on a general terms. It's all right for any government appointee to be ambitious. In fact, when they are ambitious, like what you just painted now, it shows that they have something good in mind to want to do. And we are the citizen, we watch out to see how they want to go about doing what they want to do. Everything we've been saying since we started this program is not far from the ambitions that this gentleman has rolled out. It's less than it's not up to 2 years on that seat, because it was Professor Mama that was on that seat before he came on board. And when you're talking about the science, tech, engineering, mathematics, medical, and all those things that he's talked about, it is the way to go. But when you are doing that, it also does not write off other programs, other courses that are not within the STEM courses. And countries like China that are making wave, that's the larger part of the population is contributing very hugely to their economy. Most of them are done through the technical way. I remember those days when we were in school. In my GSS 3, for instance, I did Introtech. And part of what I learned in Introtech is they give us a project where we have to do an electrical board. You do a house, and the teachers circuits how we can create different circuit breaker, run the wire, junction box, and all those things. At that level, I had an idea. If you give me a house and tell me what should wiring of a house looks like, even though I was not a STEM student, I could tell you that, okay, at every floor of the house, there should be a circuit breaker. This is what the wiring should look like and all that. I could tell you now, in a room, you should have no less than 2-3 sockets in a room and all that. I could tell you that I learned that through the Introtech. I didn't have to go and do apprenticeship. So the science tech, the STEM focus of the minister, to be fair, it will go a long way, because it will also support the technological drive of our youthful population. So there's nothing wrong about it. Unfortunately, I may not be able to do an objective analysis of it because I don't have the figure, and I don't have the data of what he has done. And before he started it, where were we? And now this is where we are. So can I say he has done well or he has not done well? So if I say something on that, I'll be very unfair on him. So, but I feel that it was a good idea for him to bring that on board. But it's my candid wish, my hope, that what is driving will come to fruition, that we will benefit from it.
So what is your advice to him in this regard?
He should not relent efforts. It's not relent efforts. He should keep pushing it. And in pushing it, he should make sure that all the stakeholders they are carried along in that project. Otherwise, it will be frustrated. It must involve the stakeholders. The stakeholders, they are key to the success of his ambition, the STEM ambition. If it doesn't involve the stakeholders, I'm afraid it may not succeed on that.
I want to connect one critical thing that happened recently. So, picking from the priority initiative of the Minister of Education. So, harnessing data and digitization and strengthening quality assurance mechanism. So now this brings us to a recent Jamb incident where we saw that 1,000 candidates were rescheduled for another sitting. What has gone wrong with the budget of 3.52 trillion naira to the education sector? What is the problem?
It's a whole lot. Let me start by unpacking it. First, it's unfortunate that we had that scenario. And let me just use this opportunity to appeal to parents and students who were affected to find a place in their hearts to forgive Jamb and to believe in the system that has come to stay. I will not dwell on the figure that you have raised, because if you are giving me this figure, I will also be asking you that in the past 4 years that this Jamb registrar have been in charge, where he has been remitting humongous amounts as profits from Jamb to the federal government coffers. There was no time that we went to check the figure, whatever that was given to him as budget. In fact, before he came on board, what we had was that monkeys will come and take money, babu or snake will come in the night and swallow money, and that the ministries or the agencies, they still need more money from government for them to be able to conduct exam. So that should not make me want to condemn him. So I will commend him instead. That I thank him for all what he has been doing. Unfortunately, what he has been doing, a lot of persons are not happy with it, because we started by saying, where have we got it wrong? How can we make our educational system, good? How can we move away from what we had now to what we used to be, in your words? And imagine those days where Jamb was a problem, where examination malpractice was the order of the day. What this current Jamb has done is to first reduce the level of examination malpractice. They cannot eradicate it. We have to face that reality. It will be there. However, it has been drastically reduced. But while that is reduced, don't forget that that sector is an economy on its own. People benefit from it. In fact, there are some persons that there's no job they do than to coordinate Jamb lesson, special center. They will tell you that if you come to the Jamb center, certain scores are guaranteed. They turn to educational Jesus Christ, if there's any word like that. And people like that, there's no way they'll
Sir? Does that seem right?
It doesn't. It doesn't. And that's what the agency is trying to do. And that brings me to, are we saying that there is no system that does not have a problem? Just recently, in Europe, UK to be more precise, there was a shutdown of system at the airport. I don't know if you follow that story.
Yeah.
For more than 24 hours, nothing could work.
Nothing could work, yeah.
I was somewhere in Lisbon, train that I've booked more than a week before. The schedule was already confirmed. I got to the train station, they said they had technical glitches. They changed all the whole time. So my worry is we are always quick to condemn the system in this part of the world. Now, for the first time, we have an agency who has got to do self-appraisal. And in doing that self-appraisal, they discovered that something went wrong with us. There was glitch and all that. Yes, some people may argue that, until the parents cried, they did that, he would never have done that. But he did it. And after he did it, he said, we saw where the problem came from. We are doing X, Y, Z. And they have done it. But does that change the system? No. Of course not. The results hasn't changed. Because if you follow some from news reports recently, the data has not changed. There was a data I was following from Jamb, but presented by a TV station analyst. And he was saying, I don't know if I'm permitted to want to go through it. And he was saying that he divided it into 4 different generations. He said from 2013 to 2016, the numbers of those that scored 200 below were 78%. And he said it's just 6,451,707 of the result that was released. He said from 2017 to 2020, 4 years, 76% scored 200 below. What it means, we have not had a pass rate of 50%. He said between 2021 and 2024, don't forget, there are no glitches in this period. Though. Between 2021 and 2024, 79% scored below 200. Now, 2025, and the year we have not known, 71% score below 200. If I will ask you, don't you think they have passed very well? If I'm going by the statistics with what they have given us. So again, the summary of what I'm trying to say is that let's try and see how we can encourage people who are doing one thing or the other to improve the system. Let's not kill their morale. It's difficult to get a good appointee that will work for the overall interest of the country as it's related to nation building. And if we have one of such, the best we can do is to encourage them. The most painful part of it is this Jamb issue, as they've taken it to religious dimension, where you see various groups, Islamia group, Jumriatu group, funding and said, we stand by Jamb, we stand by this. That's absolutely nonsense. That's what we should be asking. When did we get to this point? Why should just a common exam that we write warrant us to delve into religious quarters? Very soon I start hearing Khan say we want a Christian to be appointed as Jamb registrar. That will also be a beginning of problem. I will not be surprised if we say that anyway. But these are some of the things we should avoid. When we cry, we should cry with caution. You know, we should think of the overall interest of Nigeria, and that would be my admonition.
Okay, so as we wrap up, what's your concluding thought on how to revamp the education sector in general, from the basic to the higher level for robust national development and productivity?
This is like a Jamb question you've asked me now, because it involves a whole lot. In all I've said today, if you watch, one thing that's been constant in my comments has been the need for stakeholders to come together to believe in one cause. And in that cause that they believe is that Nigeria will rise again. And much as they have that mindset, there's no way we'll not be able to achieve whatever I want to achieve, especially when we are genuine in our pursuits. We just talked about the STEM ambition of this Minister of Education. Let us imagine if the state governors that has their lieutenants as Commissioner of Education and other educational agencies does not buy into that. Do you think that will work? It won't work. A classic example was the case of the unbundling of our educational curriculum, when many courses were unbundling. Communication, for instance, was unbundling. And that was midwife by NUC and some professional associations that their profession affects those courses. And because everybody came together, they were able to do that. So I think the power of coming together is something that we cannot wish away, we cannot overlook it. If all the stakeholders, the minister considered the need to bring all the stakeholders together in this is drive, there's no way we'll not achieve something great in this country. That's my humble opinion.
Thank you so much, Doctor.
You're welcome.
Dr. Babatunde Faustino, communication consultant and scholar. Thank you for
making up
time
me
to have a conversation.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
And now to you, our esteemed viewers, this is where we draw the curtain for this discussion today. If you want to get more knowledge on finance, the market, banking, the economy, and investing, please visit the ProShare website, WebTV YouTube, and follow our social media platforms displayed on the screen. Also, we will appreciate your feedback and comment on the program. Thank you for watching. I am Gabriel Jude signing out, and have a great day.